Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today we are talking about what appears to be some breaking news here. It looks like Gamestop has leaked some pretty important information about the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake for Nintendo Switch 2, and in my opinion this is strongly suggesting, if true, that there should be a news blowout about this game really soon. Like so soon, sooner than pretty much everyone has been expecting soon, and it's pretty exciting to consider. And so there's a lot of potential implications here, and so that's what we're dissecting and analyzing today. Before continuing though, let me point out I have this goal to reach 60,000 subscribers. I'm hoping to hit this goal soon, so if you find yourself enjoying my videos and you haven't subscribed already, I would very much appreciate you subscribing. Okay, so this is super interesting. A few hours ago, we have a screenshot here on this Reddit page where we see that GameStop had a listing for the Ocarina of Time. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Nintendo Switch 2, June 22nd, 2026. Buy The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Nintendo Switch 2 at GameStop. This item is currently not available online. August 4th, 2026, pre-order. So this would mean that on August 4th, the pre-orders would be opening up here. And what's super interesting about this is that they have since changed this. This is no longer showing up on their page. It's just this. There's no indication of any sort of pre-orders now. They changed it. And so I think this is actually potentially a really big deal here. The fact that they went ahead and deleted it is super interesting. We've seen things where maybe people or companies don't rush to change things. It doesn't necessarily mean it's not a leak, or it is. They may have just changed that because they don't want to give people the wrong idea. Maybe somehow it's a mistake, but then you gotta ask yourself, why would they accidentally put in a pre-order date for August 4th? That seems kind of random to just mistakenly put that into the information and have that listed for people to find out. To me, what makes more sense, what seems more likely, and things like this do happen, is that they did accidentally leak their pre-order dates, and yes, GameStop would have that kind of information. And so, what does this mean? Let me explain. If the pre-order dates are happening on August 4th, which would be a Tuesday, I checked, this would then suggest that they would be opening up pre-orders after a big deluge of information about the game. It's pretty common for pre-orders to open up after we get a significant amount of new information about a game. We've seen pre-orders open up for several games at Nintendo Direct, for example. And this, I think, is actually really good timing when we consider everything that's going on right now. Because we're about to get Splatoon Raiders. And then after Splatoon Raiders, there's nothing happening for the rest of July. There are no currently slated titles for August. We don't get anything until the second half of September, on September 17th for Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. There's a very sizable gap here where there just isn't anything else that's coming out from Nintendo, and so you gotta think they're gonna fill up that gap in some way, shape, or form. And there's a variety of things we've discussed as possibilities here. We do know that the Dustbloods network test is now happening in late August, and so that's part of it. That is content for us to play. For a published Nintendo title, we'll at least get some sort of a demo for, or a network test, that's what it is. And so that's something in late August, but there's still a sizable gap there, and obviously that's just a network test, more things could be going on. New information coming out early in the month of August for Ocarina of Time makes a lot of sense from this perspective. There's a big window of time there. And there could still be more. We've been theorizing Nintendo might have some kind of shadow drop happening around then. That is possible. But another consideration here is that if it happens at this point, that then sets things up for the Ocarina of Time remake to have playable builds for people to check out at the upcoming events at the end of August and throughout September. Gamescom, PAX, Tokyo Game Show. So it's one of the reasons why we've been arguing we'd be getting Ocarina of Time remake news sooner than later, because Nintendo would want to first tell us about this game themselves, control the message, and once they've put out a controlled message that we all get excited about that's away from all the other Nintendo stuff, so Ocarina of Time's not overshadowing anything else, they also have that information out there so then everyone can get excited, and then a few weeks later, go and play the game at these different events. And so even more people talk about it, more impressions, previews, hands-on, all that good stuff. And then, historically speaking, we usually get a big direct in September, and what we've theorized about is that because there's so many other things to talk about for Zelda's 40th anniversary, like last September, Nintendo will do a thing where they'll have half the direct be about Mario's anniversary, and the other half about everything else, they could do that this time for Zelda instead. It's Zelda's 40th anniversary, as it was for Mario's last year, and like how Mario had a movie coming up, we have a Zelda movie coming up, so the situation seems very similar, and they probably don't want to give us the big reveal about what Ocarina of Time is for Nintendo Switch 2, like showcasing what it's all about, at the same time as giving us the first trailer for the live-action Zelda movie. Like, they could give us an update on Ocarina of Time, but once it's more of a known quantity, once we've gotten a bigger reveal and have talked about it for a few weeks and have sat on it, and perhaps we even heard previews on or hands-on impressions at different events, then you could have a direct where you give us maybe another trailer on it, remind us about it's coming, but then there's other things to talk about for the 40th anniversary, such as the movie, maybe other merchandising things. We actually just recently heard about this new push for some Hasbro Zelda merchandising. As you see here, Warrior64 quoting, Hasbro to produce new toys based on Nintendo's The Legend of Zelda franchise. This multi-year collaboration is set to begin in 2027, starting with the first reveals of 3 6-inch scale figures at San Diego Comic-Con, July 23rd through 26, 2026. So there's already like more evidence of a bigger Zelda 40th anniversary push here, like with this stuff. And so you have the merchandising stuff, there's rumors of Twilight Princess again, we'll see if anything comes of that. Maybe a simple port of the Wii U version for Switch 1 owners, and then Switch 2 owners could obviously enjoy it through backwards compatibility, maybe a 4K upscale. Nothing too crazy, that's plausible, I think. But stuff like that, the movie, merchandising, concerts, is usually concerts, announce all that stuff as part of Zelda's 40th anniversary, and then yes, give us an update on the Ocarina of Time remake in a direct in September, but that makes sense if we have a bigger blowout beforehand. And so what I think could be happening here is that we are going to get a Nintendo Direct about the Ocarina of Time remake. We've been getting all sorts of game-specific directs for many different kinds of Nintendo games, Star Fox, Tomodachi Life, Splatoon Raiders, all of those happened this year. You go back to last year, Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Kirby Air Riders had 2 different directs, so it's not like Nintendo has been shy about having these game-specific directs, and the Ocarina of Time remake is the biggest game coming out this year from Nintendo, and there's a lot to learn about this, I think, as we take a look at the teaser, and very clearly, this is not a one-to-one remake. There's a lot going on here. We've dissected the teaser so many times already. There's a lot of elements about it that very clearly are unlike the original Ocarina of Time or the 3DS version. Like the design of the tree, the design of Link, the environment looks very different here, and so this is not a one-to-one remake, it looks like, and that suggests that there could be some substantial changes here, and that would be suggestive that the game would be worthy of having its own presentation. I mean, listen, if Star Fox, which the campaign was essentially a one-to-one remake of, if they thought that was worthy of having a Nintendo Direct, of course the Ocarina of Time remake is going to be worthy of having its own Nintendo Direct. Now, does that mean that's exactly how Nintendo's going to position things? Maybe it's not a Direct itself, it could be a little bit different. For example, with Tears of the Kingdom, there was a presentation, but it wasn't called a Tears of the Kingdom presentation. It was Aonuma playing the game with us and just kind of talking about it, showcasing it a little bit. And so it could be a demonstration like that. That is possible. Maybe it's just a trailer that they decide to release. That is also possible. Regardless, however you choose to spin it, however Nintendo chooses to brand it, if pre-orders are truly happening on August 4th, if this is actually the case, I think this strongly implies that Nintendo is going to be revealing some significant new information about the Ocarina of Time remake, be it in a direct, a demonstration of some kind, or a big trailer. That's what I think it implies. Where I think we should have some doubt is not in the idea that there wouldn't be a big connection between pre-orders and new information having come out. I feel pretty confident about that, but just the idea that somehow GameStop put this date out there and it's not based off anything at all, it's just somehow an accident. I do think it'd be really weird to put that information out there based off nothing, but I still think it's within the realm of possibility that there's just something happened where they put that information. Maybe that was a plan at one point and it got pushed back a little bit. That is possible. It's very possible. And that's something we may never learn about. So regardless, I do think we should be taking this with a grain of salt. It's not guaranteed. Or I'll remind you all, we did talk about a rumor recently coming from Nash Riedel that he heard from a source he's confident about. We won't be hearing about the Ocarina of Time remake until September. Now, maybe he just heard that we'll be hearing about the Ocarina of Time remake in September, which doesn't necessarily mean only, well, we would have to wait until September, possibly. Maybe there's some misinterpretation there, or maybe he's just wrong, or maybe there's conflation with just like Zelda 40th anniversary stuff. where they would assume that's where we see it because they heard about the other Zelda 40th anniversary stuff, which obviously makes sense to happen in September in a Nintendo Direct. Maybe it has to do with them hearing about the game being at Tokyo Game Show, and so they then assume that's how long we have to wait before we see more about the game. I suppose those are possibilities here. There's room for some misinterpretation, or maybe the information being wrong. But it could be right. Nash Weedle has gotten many things right before, including talk about the Ocarina of Time remake itself before anyone else. However, he also did hear about an Ocarina of Time 3DS HD upscale as well alongside this, and I feel like there's just a lot of sources that some are more valid than others, and so, you know, for sure I would take this with a grain of salt, all of it. But under the assumption that this GameStop leak is legitimately indicating when pre-orders will open up for the Ocarina of Time remake, what will this entail with the presentation? Will they tell us about some sort of special Switch 2 Zelda that could be coming out? That's rumored, like a special themed version. And with this presentation, what might we learn about this game? How much will Nintendo show? I imagine we're going to see actual gameplay. I speculate that they wouldn't show us adult gameplay. I would imagine that they would only show us something from early on, but at the same time, like, it's not like it's a secret that Ocarina of Time has travel and there's adult and child Link. So I'm very curious how they might go about handling that. And then I also have to wonder, like, just how ambitious this game is. How much are they changing here? This presentation, whatever it is, if it is even anything at all, would indicate what that is. We'll learn truly what this is all about by that point. We'll get the biggest, best picture. I'm not saying everything will be revealed, like that there may be a lot of secrets we'll learn when we actually get to play through the game, but we'll actually understand the true direction of this game by August 4th, it looks like, if again, this pre-order date is legitimate. Like, I assume we'll get confirmation of voice acting, which seems pretty obvious to me. I think we'll for sure learn if this is a one-to-one remake or not. To me, as I explained earlier, I think it's pretty clear it's not, but we'll have solid proof by actually looking at the actual gameplay and see just how changed the world is. There's a lot of people who speculated that they might Breath of the Wildify the game, and that might be interesting to see. We'll get a little bit of a picture of the physics of the world and such, and so for sure, that'll be really interesting to see how they go about changing Ocarina of Time and modernizing it, because obviously comparisons are going to be made to the modern Zeldas of today, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And we're just going to be able to hear music, and we're going to be able to see the visuals, and it's probably going to look and sound fantastic. And we'll also get a better understanding of just how epic they're trying to be with this one, which I imagine will be as epic as possible. And just the more and more I think about it, I don't think Nintendo can get away with having us wait until a Nintendo Direct to just give us a trailer. Like, as I'm talking about this stuff, all the things I'm looking for and I'm wanting to understand and that I'm going to want to analyze about, it does kind of seem like if they were to dive further into telling us about this game, it deserves its own moment. Not to share it with other offerings in a Nintendo Direct, not to even maybe share it with other things for Zelda's 40th anniversary. It getting its own dedicated presentation of sorts, this to me does make the most sense the more and more I talk about it. But what do you all think? Do you think I'm onto something here from the perspective of thinking that it does make the most sense for them to focus on just Ocarina of Time first, and then later on it can be included in a presentation about other things? And do you believe this GameStop leak that the pre-order dates for Ocarina of Time will open up on August 4th, and that would truly mean that we would have to get some big information about the game when these pre-order dates do go live or get announced? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I will see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.